Welcome. I'm Stu Friedman. So glad you're here. This conversation I'm about to have with Rohan Patankar is part of a series that we're doing uh, of conversations with alumni of the Wharton Total Leadership course. Ron has agreed to have a conversation with me today, coming from Jersey City, where he lives and is currently working as a consultant at PwC. And he's going to tell us about his life and work and how it's been influenced, if at all, by the work we did together in our course at Wharton in the Executive MBA program a few years ago. Welcome, Rohan.
Thank you, Stu, and thanks for having me on your program.
Yeah,
It's
well, it's
great.
great. It's great to have you here. So, give us a snapshot of what your life looks like these days.
Oh, my life looks a lot like being on the plane, being with my family, and trying to juggle the two balls together. I distinctly remember the four dimensions that we covered in your course, and they have wonderfully influenced my life over the last 2 or 3 years.
In what way? Can you say how?
Yes. So I used to think of these as distinct, disconnected elements of my life
Hmm.
for a really long time. And through attending your course and through talking to my peers and talking to you, Michelle, and the crew, I started to recognize that there are overlaps. And those overlaps can be meaningful portions of your life.
Hmm.
And I slowly started recognizing where those overlaps were and intentionally started doubling down on those.
Could you give us an example?
Absolutely. And we can do this with images later on, but for a really long time, my wife and I were chatting about me doing something about my personal financial management acumen. I never really found the time to prioritize it.
Oh,
Up
so
until
didn't they teach you that at Wharton?
Yes, they did, and I was terrible at it for some reason.
Okay.
Until the time my better half actually made sure that I followed through on this one.
All right.
Um, so it was sort of a goal that I had. I kept talking about it, but never really acting on it. She's like, you
Hmm.
should really do this, like I can see that you're good at this. I can see that you can help others, but I don't see you acting on it just yet. And it's something that actually, if I go back to my notes during your course, I had mentioned as one of my goals.
Hmm.
So earlier this year, in January, taking her words to heart, I actually had an epiphany moment where I could actually bring all four elements of my life together.
Hmm.
Element one, my work. Through PwC, there's a corporate social responsibility initiative where I can go to middle and high schoolers and talk about personal financial management, investment 101. Work dimension, they actually gave me the time off to be able to do that.
Hmm.
Home dimension,
Well,
my
how does your being involved in that serve the interests of PwC?
it actually serves the interest a couple of ways. So PwC gets good press out of it.
Hmm.
And also, PwC has a mission. In the mission statement, they actually state that we serve our clients and our society. So this goes in the society dimension of the
Okay.
PwC mission statement. So
All
it,
right.
it actually helps them in a couple of different ways. Also, the foundation that I work with happens to be closely aligned in a lot of financial services clients and regulators. So it actually helps from a relationship standpoint as well.
All right. So that's the work dimension.
Yep.
Home, you were about to say.
Yep, the home dimension. So as I previously mentioned, this is something that I wanted to act on for a really long time. It took focus from my wife wanting and pushing me to do this. In a lot of ways, it became as much her want of me doing it or goal of me doing it as much as it was mine.
Hmm.
So it almost became like both of us were like invested in the same way. And actually, after holding the first event at a Brooklyn school, coincidentally, where you come from, um, uh,
Brooklyn is my hometown. Yes. So you were serving the interests of the community in Brooklyn, and your wife was saying,
Yep. And before the event, she was really excited. She was almost as excited as I was. I was a little nervous, admittedly, because
hmm
I'm talking to high schoolers is a middle and high schoolers is a very, very high bar, especially if they are 200 and you're one. You almost feel like it's a little bit of parenting en masse. So that's something that I felt in that moment.
hmm
But she was inspirational in the way that I actually went about this. She inspired me to do this. And even after the event, just after the event, she basically took time off of work, met me in Brooklyn, and we both had a nice cup of tea and talked about it.
Nice. Now, what was in it for her? Why was she
Um,
excited about this? Why did she want you to do this? How would it help her?
So in a lot of ways, we have she's the creative mind in the home. I'm the analytical mind in the home. She does a lot of the creative stuff that I can't even fathom. But on the analytical side, she actually leans on me to talk about money because that's something that I've always found myself doing, both with my dad, with my brother, as well as with her over the years.
Hmm.
So she actually felt the personal investment through what she was seeing at home.
Hmm.
She's like, hey, I think others should see this too. Right. So her personal investment came from seeing it upfront over the last 8 or 9 years. And that is where we started off.
And so she saw what you were capable of.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how this initiative to teach, and we'll get to the community dimension next, um, how that enriches her life in some way. Any thoughts about that?
In a lot of ways, she's a lot more community minded than I ever was. And this actually it was a refreshing change for me because she comes in from a massive healthcare background. She's a
Hmm.
physical therapist herself.
Hmm.
And from even from her just from her patient standpoint, her mindset always is to serve the community first,
I see.
right? And that mindset automatically extended into this idea. So there was a sense of personal satisfaction coming out of
hmm
this.
Okay, that's clear. All right. So what about the community dimension, which seems really obvious in this instance? What was
Very, very high.
what was the impact?
The impact was so there were two or three things that have happened so far since the beginning of the year. The first one was right at the new year, almost seems like a new year resolution, but it was all set up before the holidays. So Jan of this year, I went to a school in Brooklyn called the Seoul Academy. Um, Grades 6, 7, and 8 all had approximately 200 students each. And we conducted a couple of things. There is a game that the foundation that I'm working with has that runs through the semester that students are allowed to participate in teams. It's called a stock market game. And they are actually doing this um, semester-wide exercise of investing in using virtual money in the real stock market scenarios.
Hmm,
However, to enable them to do that, they first need to know about investing. So a lot of really, really sharp and smart kids, um, they had questions that I could not fathom in my sixth, seventh, or eighth grade, to be completely candid with you.
hmm
But the first part of that story was an investment 101. And that investment 101, I was brought in as the person who would introduce them to the concept of money, why you should think about it early and often in your life, what impact it has on you as individuals, and in the end, definitely have some fun with your friends. Um,
Nice.
Last but not the least, as a personal mission, one of the things that I saw over the years as an immigrant in this country was um, taking on debt is very easy, especially for grad schools and colleges. Knowing the impact of it on your life is far, far more difficult.
hmm
And that's something that motivated me personally to do this. And I'll go to that in the self dimension. But for the community, that is what actually inspired me to do this.
hmm
And then,
You wanted to help these kids be able to forecast what the risks are or what the commitments and obligations are from taking debt. Is that
yes,
right?
yes. very much so.
Please,
And
yeah.
sorry, please continue.
No, no, please continue.
So through these sessions, and each of these sessions were 45 minutes with the sixth grade, 45 with the seventh, 45 with the
Hmm.
eighth grade.
Hmm.
There were two-part sessions where we were kind of introducing the concepts of money management. What would you do with $100 bill? Oh, I would buy those school sneakers. I would buy that video game. All those conversations, all those fun conversations. And then, how do you want to approach the game? How do you want to do this so that you're in it to win it? So that was basically the conversation over those 45 minutes.
Hmm.
And I got to tell you, Stu, like I am far less intimidated when I'm in a room with Fortune 500 execs than I was when I was with sixth, seventh, and eighth graders. Because I got to tell you, they are far more astute and articulate than any people that I have met.
Oh, wow. Well, and they're probably a little less inhibited in challenging you in very direct ways.
Absolutely. And
Well,
in a
that,
nutshell, I found that to be very refreshing in a lot of ways, that
hmm.
they're unconstrained.
Yeah, of course. Well, so what was the impact on you personally? Your mind, body, spirit?
So I'll start off with I had this from the self dimension. I had this internal goal of before anyone takes on their first dollar of debt, knowing and understanding the full impact of their life. It
Mm,
started off with something as simple as that, but I think it went far beyond that when these things actually started happening. And I described the first event, and I'm going to describe a couple of others. I had a similar event with the Bronx Community College once, and I also judged essays at the end of the game cycle. You write these essays,
hmm.
students write
Hmm.
these essays nationwide, and there's a nationwide competition regarding this. And I judged some of those essays, which is where my observation of them being astute, articulate, very smart came from.
Hmm.
But it gave me a sense of satisfaction that I did not think was even achievable, to be candid with you. Personal satisfaction of having contributed in a very small way, at
Hmm.
least, to in a very small subset of students
Hmm.
and helping shape their hearts and minds. Right? That was I always knew that could happen, but I did not know how impactful it would be until the time I saw students one on one. I spoke to them, and I really saw what their questions were about, right? Like until that moment happened, I never really realized the full impact of it. And it was deeply gratifying to see that.
What was gratifying about that for you, Rohan?
Uh, Personally, I always had this mind for, and this comes from my dad actually. He has this fantastic professor slash teacher type mindset and thought and speaking process that I saw growing up in many ways. I always wanted to try and emulate that, and this took me back to those moments.
Nice.
Personally, it was deeply satisfying for me to see that. And then, of course, the impact it created in a lot of ways. So, for example, in one of the student conversations, and you would not believe if I said this, but a seventh grader was talking to me about portfolio diversification. And I was like, when I was your age, all I cared about was candy, video games, and what I'm going to play with my friends outside the house. I did not know or even have any semblance of understanding of what you're asking me, right? But that conversation made me also understand that
Mhm.
I got to take it up a notch
Mm.
for certain students who are very advanced.
Yep.
And I also have to make sure that everyone else is comfortable.
So you learned some things. Uh, we're going to have to wrap this up here, Rohan. I have so many more things I'd like to ask you about, though. But perhaps we can close this way. What would you like to say to other Wharton alumni from the Total Leadership community about what you discovered in doing this wonderful initiative?
So a couple of things, right? One is your life in a lot of ways is going to have connection points in three or four completely unrelated dimensions. Um, it's hard to sometimes intentionally think about it until the time you have these moments where all of those come together and there is harmony, and you automatically feel very differently about it.
Hmm.
Stu, your class in large part made me realize that, if I'm being completely candid, I always thought of my work as my work, my home life as my home life, some time to myself. but I never really thought that those elements could come together and fit together in such an easy way, until the time there was a deliberate attempt to do it. It's that deliberate attempt that your class actually made sure that I had. Admittedly, I'm slow, so it took me a little bit of time to get there.
I'm
But
still
it's
learning
your
it too.
class. Yeah.
I'm still learning it too, Rohan. So thank you so much for taking the time to share this remarkable story. It's really inspiring and so wonderful to hear about uh, this really powerful experiment. I especially appreciate your focus on the importance of intentionality and being deliberate, as you say, about looking for creative ways to produce harmony among the different parts of your life. And you've illustrated it so wonderfully here for us. Thank you so much for taking the time to do so. Really appreciate it, Rohan.
Thank you, Stu. Thank you for having me.